The car wasn't stolen. There were no weapons, no raised voices, just a routine traffic stop on a quiet Hull road, a faint smell of cannabis, a nervous glance, and a woman who didn't fit the script. She handed something over, small and insignificant looking, but officers had a strong feeling about it, and they followed it. What came next wasn't part of any plan. It started small, but it wouldn't stay that way. This is the story of Danielle Stafford, and how a speeding ticket exposed the quiet rise of a drug queenpin. Danielle Stafford wasn't on any watch list. She didn't have a record, no history of violence, no sign of the lifestyle she was living behind closed doors. She worked a steady job as an engineer for Swift Group. On paper, she was everything the system wanted, a university graduate with no known associations to crime. Her pay slips were untouched. Her bank account showed no large withdrawals, no sudden transfers, nothing that would raise a flag. And yet, she owned 2 properties. The second, bought outright in 2018, had no mortgage attached. She paid her share, nearly £65,000 in cash. No savings account, no paperwork, just stacks of cash passed without questions. Along with that, 9 watches. 3 Louis Vuitton handbags. Foreign trips carefully taken, but with no visible trace. No travel money withdrawn, no records of overseas bookings, nothing coming from the bank account at all. Inside her home in Cottingham, police would later find 9 high-end watches and 3 Louis Vuitton handbags. Later we will discuss it in more details. Over the course of 3 years, Stafford lived well above her means. And yet, not once did she declare a rise in income. Not once did her accounts reflect the life she was clearly funding. Not through work, but through something far more lucrative. From the outside, it looked like a quiet, successful life. But it wasn't built on promotions or bonuses. It was built on Class A. For 3 years, Danielle Stafford lived like someone with far more than a 9-to-5, and she kept it hidden until one mistake on a city road put it all at risk. It was early evening in Hull, May 12, 2020. Danielle Stafford's silver Audi was seen speeding through Priory Road, cutting corners, overtaking recklessly. Police followed it as it turned onto Hotham Road South, then into the odd bottle car park on Wold Road. They weren't looking for drugs at that time. It was a traffic offence, nothing more. But when the officers approached the driver's side, they caught a smell. Skunk, faint but distinct. It changed everything. Stafford looked calm. She handed over a small silver wrap. 2 buds of cannabis skunk. She said it was hers, but that's all she had. The officers didn't believe her. A search began. More bags of cannabis were found inside the car, including a food bag stuffed behind the seat. An empty tub with drug residue was also recovered. Altogether, the cannabis alone was worth over £1,300. Then came the phone, ringing constantly. 30 calls, 20 messages. All during the short trip to the custody suite. It didn't stop there. As they pulled into the station, one of the officers noticed her shifting in her seat, adjusting her waistband. She was asked if she had anything else hidden. At first, Stafford hesitated, then admitted there was something more. But she said, "It's not mine. I don't know what it is. I shoved it down my joggers when you pulled me." From between her legs, she pulled out a bag of crack cocaine, 56 individual wraps, £2,800 worth. That moment changed everything. This wasn't personal use. This wasn't someone carrying a little extra. This was dealing, and she knew it. She had no weapon, no backup, no alibi. Just the wrong car, the wrong turn, and the kind of mistake that takes years to undo. Within hours, the doors to her house would be coming off too. By the time officers reached Hallgate, Cottingham, they already knew they weren't dealing with a user. The drugs in the car, the messages that kept coming, the money, the scale. It all pointed to something structured and bigger. From the outside, it looked like any other property on the street. Inside, it told a different story. They forced entry into her 3-bedroom home. The first discovery was in plain sight. A banana box left on a living room table filled with herbal cannabis worth £2,500. She claimed it wasn't hers. But nearby were food bags, weighing scales, and 2 glass jars containing more cannabis, valued at £370. She admitted that part was hers. Officers moved to the bedroom. Hidden among her belongings, they found loose cash, £430 in one bag, another £670 in notes, more bundles, £2,350 and £1,480 stashed in different corners. On the floor sat a safe. Inside there was £7,580. She denied it was hers. Then came the rear garden. Behind the house, a coal bunker sat half-concealed beneath other storage. Buried behind a bag of coal bricks was a glass jar packed with sealed drug wraps. 270 of them were crack cocaine, worth £13,500. Another 205 were heroin, valued at £4,100. It wasn't tucked away. It was embedded, hidden with care, protected from the elements, designed to sit unnoticed. Police continued upstairs. In a box room, more cash, up to £9,100 in one bundle. Others scattered, £1,668, £700, £550 and £165. Some in envelopes, some in drawers, some simply folded into clothing. The search didn't just expose the product, it showed structure and method. She wasn't just dealing, she knew exactly what she had and where. Every room had a role, every hiding spot had a purpose. This wasn't chaos, it was quiet control. What the initial search revealed was only part of the picture. As officers dug deeper into drawers, safes, and bank records, a second layer of Stafford's empire began to show itself. In the upstairs box room, they found bundles of cash stacked neatly, each one isolated. £9,100 in one pile, then another, £1,668, and more, £550, £700, £1,110, £165, £190, £91. No bank slips, no envelopes, just untraceable money, stored behind furniture, tucked into corners, left as if waiting to be picked up. Behind the TV, more notes were discovered, folded, banded, and pressed behind electronics. Some of it mixed with clothing, some of it sealed in bags, all of it hidden in plain sight. She claimed only £2,350 belonged to her. The rest, she said, was someone else's. A man from Liverpool. We will talk about him later. Her bank accounts showed no signs of strain, no withdrawals to fund luxury. But they did reveal a problem. She had taken multiple foreign holidays. Yet there were no records of exchanging money, no travel bookings made from her accounts, and no overseas card activity. She insisted the expensive items in her home weren't real, that the 9 watches and 3 Louis Vuitton handbags were either counterfeit or gifted from relatives on holiday, that she wasn't someone who splashed out, that she just looked after things. The court saw it differently. The financial picture was clear, income on paper, cash in walls, and a lifestyle no payslip could explain. Danielle Stafford didn't claim to be innocent, but she didn't accept the scale of what police believed either. From the moment she was arrested, Danielle Stafford began distancing herself from the drugs, the cash, and the operation around her. She admitted to dealing cannabis, said it was something she'd done on and off for years, but when it came to heroin and crack cocaine, her story changed. She said she wasn't the one in charge, that the heroin, the cocaine, even the large amount of cannabis weren't hers. She wasn't a supplier. She told police she was looking after it for someone else. According to Stafford, a man from Liverpool was the one running the operation. She described him as someone she knew socially, someone who had stayed with her a few times. She told officers he had called her, asked her to bring him a bag, and said she didn't feel comfortable, but agreed. She insisted she had no idea what was inside. When asked about the £26,000 in hidden cash, She said most of it wasn't hers, just £2,350. The rest, she claimed, belonged to the same man. She was just holding on to it. A favour, she said, for someone who trusted her. As for the watches and handbags, she called them fakes, cheap replicas from Turkey and Spain, given to her by family members who liked to shop abroad, nothing to do with drug money. She told her version. Blame someone else. On paper, she looked like a woman with too much to lose, not one running a drug line. But in the background, prosecutors had been working quietly. They weren't relying on suspicion. They had records, phone data, financials, and testimony. And when it all came together in court, the story she'd built would begin to fall apart. It was April 2023, inside Hull Crown Court. Danielle Stafford stood in the dock, 31 years old, a qualified engineer, well-dressed and looking calm. The charges laid against her weren't vague. They were precise, deliberate, and carried weight. She faced 3 counts of being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs, heroin, crack cocaine, and cannabis, as well as a separate charge of possessing criminal property, namely the £26,917 in cash found hidden throughout her home. The charges spanned nearly 3 years, from October 2017 to May 2020. Stafford had entered not guilty pleas. The trial began. A jury was sworn in, and for the first time, the full case against her was laid bare. The prosecution, led by Nadim Bashir, didn't build its case on theory. It relied on evidence, cold, forensic, and structured. They laid out the timeline. Years of unexplained wealth, 2 properties, no recorded withdrawals, no visible income streams. The drugs were separated, packaged, hidden across multiple locations in home. The cash, stashed in multiple locations, amounted to nearly £27,000, as described earlier. They pointed to the volume of missed calls and drug messages received during her arrest, over 30 incoming calls and 20 messages in a matter of minutes. They showed that the luxury items in her house were not consistent with someone earning an engineer's salary and living within their means. The prosecution didn't just look at what Stafford owned, they looked at how she paid for it. Her salary came in like clockwork, but there were no signs it was ever used. No major withdrawals, no large transfers, no evidence of rent, bills, holidays, or shopping. Her wages sat untouched, quiet, and untapped. And yet, she lived like someone earning triple that amount. A second home paid for in cash, foreign holidays, high-end watches, designer handbags, all with no trace of payment activity on her accounts. No foreign currency was bought, no cards used abroad, no transactions for flights or accommodation, just cash, handed over, counted, and gone. When questioned, she said she'd cashed in premium bonds to help buy the second property, that she was careful, that she managed her money well. But prosecutors made it clear there was no legal income stream that could explain what she'd built. Her job didn't cover it, her bank didn't reflect it. The only thing that did was the drugs. This wasn't about suspicion. It was about systems, packaging, scale, and control. This was business. Her defense team, led by barrister Salima Mahmood, pushed back. They admitted Stafford had supplied cannabis. That much was true. But when it came to Class A, they argued her involvement was limited. Just 2 sets of messages with that second person and no clear proof of direct street-level dealing. They painted a picture of a woman used by a Liverpudlian lad. They described Stafford as educated with no prior convictions, a former volunteer, a woman who had shown remorse. Character references from previous employers were read to the court. She wasn't a gangster, they said, just someone in too deep. But the prosecution dismantled it, methodically. The phone didn't just ping once, it rang non-stop. The drugs weren't found in a single place. They were buried in bunkers and all those details that I have explained to you earlier and do not want to explain again. Then, mid-trial, something changed. Stafford's defense team withdrew their earlier position. The not guilty pleas were dropped. She changed her plea to guilty on all 4 counts, After the jury had already been sworn in, there was no longer a question of whether she'd done it. The only question now was how long she would serve. When sentencing finally came, Judge Mark Berry didn't focus on the headlines. He looked at the structure and how long it had taken to collapse. The judge said he didn't accept her claims that she'd simply been holding the drugs, or that the expensive items were fake, or that the thousands in hidden cash had nothing to do with her. He said, "You were a street dealer in cocaine. You had a significant amount of designer and expensive items and jewelry. I am not prepared to accept that it was fake." And he noted how late the guilty pleas had come. The evidence was strong, if not overwhelming. The final sentence was clear: 7 years and 6 months in prison for the supply of heroin, crack cocaine, and cannabis, as well as possession of criminal property. And that is not the end. Months later, the court returned to calculate her gains. After reviewing the value of drugs, cash, and assets, Stafford was ordered to repay £96,263 under the Proceeds of Crime Act. She was given 3 months to pay it. If she fails, she serves another 12 months. She was given 3 months to pay it. The deadline runs into early September 2025, but as of now, no public record confirms whether the money's been paid. If the payment isn't made in full, the sentence will extend, and Danielle Stafford will serve an extra year behind bars. What do you make of the sentence? 7.5 years for years of Class A supply. Was it enough? Or should more time have followed the money? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want more real UK crime stories like this, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. There's always another case to uncover.